Okay, and we're here on 10 Tracks, and this edition we have Young Raja with us. Hey, Young Raja, how are you, man?
What's up, bro? I'm great, man. How you doing today?
Yeah, I'm doing fine myself, man. So, first of all, can you tell me where are you calling from?
I'm calling from my home, right here in Theka, Little India. The place where I grew up in. Just another day at home.
Yeah.
Another day of work.
Yeah.
From home. So yeah, man. Where are you right now?
So right now our studio is in Whampoa. So we're actually not far away from Little India as well.
Yeah, you're very near.
Yeah, exactly. Near. Yeah. Dude, the heartland is where it's at, man.
It's where it's at, bro. I have all these friends telling me about the East and the West. I'm like, guys, come on, man, listen.
Yeah.
Listen. Central, Heartland,
right.
You can't get it like this.
So you see, for me, I'm in the northeast. I stay in Serangoon myself, and I've always been very confused with like the east-west kind of like rivalry going on, because to be honest, both of them kind of confuse me. It feels like very lived-in ecosystems. You know, when you go to the west and you go to the east, it's very distinct. But I feel so far away from Singapore to the point where I'm like, I don't know whether this is Singapore to me anymore. It feels so distinctly east and west. I like that the northeast and central really feels part of like the metropolitan side of Singapore. Exactly, yeah. So
you know what? You phrased it in a way that I always struggle to. Like that's exactly how I felt about this place for the longest time. Yeah. And I struggle to put those sentiments in words every time somebody asks me. Yeah. I'm like, you know what? It's okay. You know what? Yeah, East is the best. Okay, just to shut them up. Yeah, okay, Simpang is the best. Okay,
So today, when we actually set aside like the recording, I actually made a simple error. So when I sent over the invite, right? So initially when I reached out to Theodora, shout out Theodora, by the way. So so we wanted to arrange for you to come down to the studio right here to go and talk to us. But when I sent out the Google invite, Google automatically added a Google Meets link. So so there was a bit of like a breakdown in communication over there, but I'm just very happy to talk to you over here anyway. I mean, I got to see your room right now, immaculate lighting, really great. So,
well, shit, man, I would have loved to come down too, man.
Dude, in future,
sorry to hear about that.
Oh, no worries. We're still doing this, but I think from the list that you sent us, it's actually quite interesting because, okay, first of all, 90% hip hop. I mean, not surprising. Yep. I mean, hip hop is where it's at. But also, you've got like a very nice balance between like the old school, maybe like the 90s hip hop, and then you've got some of like the 2000s favorites right here. And like these songs to me feel very formative. Like they tell me that these songs, when you put it in the list, like these really inform the way that you see hip hop, the way that you see the world.
100%.
So the first song that we have, if I'm gonna go like chronologically, the first song that we have is A Milli by Lil Wayne. So could you tell us a bit about that?
I remember, man, like all the records that I put on that list are songs that is attached to a certain time of my life, you know? Yeah. And it was that, and all the times that it's attached to has a synchronicity across all the 10 tracks, which is, they're all from a time where I was learning what hip hop is, and I was falling in love with what hip hop brought to the table. And I remember vividly, man, it feels like it was not too long ago when I was 14 or 13 years old, going to school, and my dad got me my first iPod, and I listened to A Milli for the first time ever. I didn't know who Lil Wayne was. The Carter 3 just came out, and A Milli was like on top 10 iTunes chart at that time, and I just bought the song, and I listened to it, and when the bass hit, a part of my soul just like left. I was like, yo, what was that? Like, and it was a song that I just looped every day to school and back home. And it was just one of the songs that I listened to it probably 1,000 times, you know, with one of the first few times where I fell in love with the sound, with the drums, with the subs, with the 808s. Yeah. And Lil Wayne was at that time somebody that showed me what the world has to offer. And 2009, I still remember 2008, 2009. That was when.
And you know, growing up in Singapore right now, at least for like our generation, because I believe like in our age we're quite similar. We are part of that last part of like Singaporean youth where the presence of hip hop on the radio charts was quite limited compared to now.
Yeah.
So this is something
100%.
in a way like you had to like go out and seek yourself as well. And like you said, like, you know, your first time where you had an out of body experience listening to Lil Wayne was like listening to the CD or so. It's not something that you just listen to in the cab when it's on the radio.
Yeah, exactly. So that's why it was so alien to me, because I come from a very South Indian household. Like my whole family is from India. So like at home, I don't get to experience anything that is very westernized or very Singaporean even. I mean, we are Singaporeans now, but like just the culture at home is still pretty South Indian as it can go, right? So for me, it has always been strange. Anything that is apart from the South Indian culture has always seemed pretty alien to me. I guess I was a little sheltered in that sense because my entire family is from South India and I'm the only one that was born and raised here. So it was like a little disconnect there. So for me, hip hop was like was the most alien thing. It was from the opposite side of the spectrum for me. So that juxtaposition of sounds just really made a very strong impression in my young formative mind, I guess, you know.
So at the time when you had like the Lil Wayne CD and your dad knew you're listening to hip hop, like how did they take to it?
Well, actually, to be honest, they didn't really know that I was listening to hip hop music that much. I kept pretty quiet on my taste of music, regarding my taste of music for the longest time, actually. I've always been that nerd in school that always gets bullied for the dumbest reasons. This is the lame kid that had a spectacular playlist with the hardest songs that pretty sure even the coolest guys in secondary school had no idea about. You know what I mean?
Yeah.
So that was a disconnect in who I was as a person and what kind of world I was subscribing to on a day-to-day basis. It took me many years to bridge that gap. It was sometime around maybe 18 or 19 when I met Faris Jabbar. Like that's the first buddy that I had in my life that came from a very similar predicament.
Yeah, and he's a ride or die till now as well.
Yeah, he's my ride or die. He's his blood at this point. You know what I mean? You know what I mean? So like that is the first guy that kind of opened up that side of me, you know, without me realizing it. And my personality and who I was and my two worlds just came together, and I was able to open up about the kind of music that I love, my love for hip hop and my journey thus far and all that. Yeah.
So, you know, there have been other Singaporeans like you where, you know, in the realization of their later part of their teens, you know, hip hop suddenly becomes a really big part of their identity and they find themselves within the culture. But what you have made so distinct in the music that you've made is, you know, the South Indian part of you is incredibly important as well to your identity. And this is something that you infuse in your music. And now you have a new single, MAMI, as well.
Oh yeah,
yeah. Like,
I didn't know that you know about that. Yes, MAMI.
Shout out Theodora again when she had to tell us about it.
This is the first interview that I'm even mentioning the name MAMI. So that's something, man.
Yeah, this is going to be out around the time when it will be when more people know about the single. So at least we're good. But for now, like, could you tell us about like what it's about and everything?
You know, MAMI is very interesting, man. It means many different things, especially. You know, it means very pretty girl, right? Most people will understand that as it's a very pretty girl, but you know, in Tamil, there's like a slightly different meaning to that. You know, it's like this, and I found it very interesting how one word could have many different meanings in different languages, and it's something that we just took a creative spin on. Yeah, and it's a song about girls, just us having fun as usual, and it's one of those slappers, man. It's one of those slappers like Mustafa. Is if you play that in a club, like people gonna bounce to it. So like, you know, we can't go to the clubs just yet. So why not bring that energy to everybody's speakers when we can, you know? So that's the vibration that we're on. So I can't wait for people to hear MAMI.
And that's been the case for a lot of artists where the idea of like making music for the club is just them imagining the club because they can't perform it right now. I think it's been a case for you where you've been producing songs in your bedroom as well. So like it all comes from a fairly intimate space and a very personal space or so, like physically. Yeah.
Yes, so, I mean, no, I made music with my brother, Fly School. Yeah. So I'm usually recording music at his house. All the records that we've put out so far has been recorded at his space, and he's produced all the beats for that. Yeah. I'm very blessed to have somebody like him to create like the sonic world for me to exist in, you know what I mean? Like, without him, I don't think I'll be able to make songs like this. You know, it's like it comes hand in hand, man. Like I got all these raps to lay on a beat, but the beat is as important or more important than just the lyrics, right? So I am very fortunate to have that studio space at his house and that mentor to like kind of guide me in that space. So that's where we've been making all the records. So here's where I work on my own demos, and like the stuff that I worked on in here haven't come out yet. Like that hopefully will come see the daylight someday soon, hopefully.
So this is the incubator. This is where the ideas start, and Flight School is the person who really helps to like really accelerate all the ideas into like a professional song in that sense.
That's right. Because he's the current A&R of Universal Music Singapore. So he is. I mean, we started off in his home studio like 2018 when he started MO3 Records. Like he's the guy that gave me the name Young Raja, and like he's the guy that figured out what direction I should go sonically with me. Like he's the guy that gave me laid the blueprint with me. So to have him now as the A&R of UMG, and I'm a UMG artist, so it's like just works perfectly. Still the day one team, the day one guys. Nothing really changed in the workflow. As a matter of fact, it only improved, only strengthened. So that's something super dope.
I mean, it's not just a ride or die, but you guys are really growing together as well.
Yeah, man. Yeah, man. There's no price on that. That's just something to die for, man. For real.
So on the list that you have, it's also another hip hop star from the South, in America, T.I. So I just find it very interesting that you're really pulling like all of these hip hop stars who, in a sense, were not radio stars in Singapore. Like we did have like 50 Cent, we had Eminem who had like MTV hits, but people like Lil Wayne and T.Y., while they were mega stars in America and the other side of the world, this is music that you had to dig for yourself. So how did you mainly find out about these artists back then? Like what kind of websites did you dig? What kind of magazines did you read? Right.
I was a big Apple fanboy as a kid. When the iPod Touch came out, I completely lost my mind. I'll never forget that day. I've always been super like blown away by Apple products in general, the way they market it, how it's just a fanboy, man, just a fucking geek, right? Just a geek, just a kid.
Are you wearing AirPods now, by the way?
I'm wearing AirPods now. I got AirPod Studios here. I got a MacBook. I got Apple Watch. What do you need? I got everything, man. I'm the guy that used to queue up to buy the iPhone when I was 13 years old. And I'm that kid, 10 years later now, right? So that being the spark, right? The spark started with the love for Apple products, which then led to me getting the first ever iPod, my first ever iPod Touch, without really knowing what an iPod stands for. Like only after buying the product did I realize that this was the leading music playing device in the planet right now. This can hold 50,000 songs. I could hold 50,000 songs in my pocket and bring it to school. So that was like, whoa, what the fuck? Like that's crazy. So where do I find these songs? And then I discovered iTunes Store. So when I got on iTunes Store, and then all these charts of like what's the number one song. So just at that time there was no App Store. I don't know if you know this. There was no App Store. There was no like.
You got to the website to download it and everything. So like iTunes was the first one where you can find all the music there.
Like it literally at that time, an iPod Touch, when you buy it, it had like 9 apps. Like probably it didn't even have a calculator app at that time. Calendar. Like the most basic of the basic, right? And iTunes Store was one of the stock apps that it had, and I just on my iPod like the whole day, right? I didn't have much to do on the iPod Touch anyways, besides being on surfing the web or using all the stock apps. So I ended up spending a lot of time on iTunes Store because it was such a foreign thing to me, listening to songs that are not South Indian music.
Right.
So I would go through these charts and listen to what's hot, and that's how I discovered. My time was mostly spent on the hip hop charts because by that time I had already heard a couple of Eminem records, and I knew that I had a liking for hip hop songs. I had a general idea. I wasn't like in it. But when I discovered the hip hop charts on iTunes, I was like, wow, this is insane. Like just my mind was blown, dude. Like that's when I discovered Kanye, Jay-Z, the hottest artists of that time. Like, got to properly hear their music in full quality,
Yeah. So what about T.I. exactly that really like connected with you?
So the first song that I discovered by T.I. was Whatever You Like. At that time, you can have whatever you like. That was all over. It was everywhere, right?
Yeah.
Like, that was probably the number one video on YouTube as well. Like, he had a crazy music video for that. So I got hooked to that song. And that is how I discovered, that's how we discover artists, right? Like, you listen to one song, that song probably turns you into a unsuspecting listener to a fan. And then you're like, oh shit, what else does he have? And then you start digging a little deeper, and then you realize, oh, they're actually legends from where they're from.
Right.
And that's how it happened. So I fell in love with T.I. with Whatever You Like, and I dug a little deeper, and I found out that he had another song with Lil Wayne. And I'm like, oh shit, I'm a fan of Lil Wayne with A Milli and 3-Pete and the Carter 3. And so I'm listening to this song, and at that time, I hadn't really dove into Kanye or Jay-Z, so I listened to Swagger Like Us. And that was the first time I knew what sampling was. I was exposed to sampling.
Yeah.
Like MIA's voice, no one in the corner has swagger like us, swagger like us, swagger like us. You know, it was just like, wow, like what the, like, this is just so cool.
Yeah.
And that became the other song that I would loop on a daily basis to school, like in lower secondary, like Sec 2. So that was the beginning of understanding the other rap figures, the huge rap figures in the game, at a young, early stage in my life.
Right, yeah. So while we're going through this list, and again, like, it's a lot of hip hop luminaries and definitely people that would shape your path in hip hop. But we also have a song from A.R. Rahman, who is an Indian superstar at this point, man.
Yes, 100%. So A.R. Rahman songs is all I heard, man. It's all I heard. All I heard till I was 10, 11, 12 years old.
Were your parents obsessed with the song?
Sorry?
Were your parents obsessed with the song?
Yeah, no, they were obsessed. They've always been obsessed with A.R. Rahman because we, the South Indian entertainment space has many, many greats. A.R. Rahman being one of them, and A.R. Rahman being one of the musical, what do you call that? Prodigies. Like there can't be another A.R. Rahman. Let's just put it that way. Yeah. And he has so many classics and so many evergreen songs that he has made, you know, since the 90s, since the time I was born till now, right? So I guess you could say that in my household, one of the biggest musical South Indian musical influences is A.R. Rahman.
Right.
So I listened to a lot of A.R. Rahman without knowing that it was A.R. Rahman, right?
Right.
And then until a much later stage in my life, when I started doing music, I realized that I now am in a place where I can connect with other musicians, and as a result of that, I linked up with this guy called Sid Sriram, who's the guy that sang that song Kali Pogade. Sid Sriram is also one of the trailblazers in the Indian space, and also the Indian music, South Indian music space, and also somebody that is a trailblazer in India. You know, and he worked with A.R. Rahman on many records. So I got a chance to meet him. And I've been a fan of this song, Kali Pogade, because, you know, without really knowing much about Sid Sriram, or without even knowing that it was produced by A.R. Rahman, like just listening to it, right? You know? And then I went to India and I met up with Sid Sriram. And I'm like, damn, like, dude, what's up, man? Like, you know, we linked up. He was like, yo, come through to the studio. And it was just a magical timing aligning, right? So we aligned with the schedules. And next thing I know, I'm in the studio and we're kicking it. And he plays the original demo of Kali Pogade. Right. Like the original demo that A.R. Rahman sent to him to write to it and to like sing A.R. Rahman's voice.
Yeah.
And I was just blown to smithereens, bro. Like it was so crazy. Like A.R. Rahman basically freestyled the entire song.
Wow. Okay.
Like if you hear Kali Pogade from start to end, every chord and every vocal melody that you hear, not one part of it was changed from the original demo that A.R. Rahman sent to Sid Sriram. So A.R. Rahman was probably in Switzerland or something, somewhere. He was doing a show. He came back to his hotel room and he just literally recorded on his phone while playing on his, what is that instrument where you can like, there's keys and there's this thing that is attached in front of it that you could.
You're talking about a keyboard? Like, I mean, as in, like, it sounds like a keyboard, but it seems
keyboard,
like
it's a keyboard with like a little attachment to it, right? So he's playing the
right.
keys and he's humming the melodies, and he's probably recording the entire thing on a voice note on his phone.
Okay.
He sends that over to Sid, and that is the song that became the song, bro.
Yeah.
That is the demo that became the song. And I was just like, wow, this is insane. I was already a fan of the song. So like for me to get the backstory of it was just like, there's not another song that I would rank above that because I got to like listen, or like I got to take a sneak peek into how it was made. And so it's forever cemented as one of my favorite songs by Sid and A.R. Rahman.
It sounds like a lot of things are coming full circle. I mean, from the fact that now you had like this close proximity with A.R. Rahman through Shriram, but also A.R. Rahman basically sending that recording via Apple technology as well.
Yeah. Dude, it's wild, bro. It's super wild, man. It's super wild. You put it like that. Yeah.
You know, A.R. Rahman himself, like I was reading news on him, and he actually has a new platform called Maja. So he says that he wants to give South Asian artists a chance to like distribute their music without compromising on like creative control. But there was one quote specifically where, even though it sounds just as like a definition of his ethos, you know, as a leader in this, but it also reminded me of a quote that you actually dropped a while back. So he says, when you have the right team, greatness can be achieved together and you can shine better. And I remember when I saw you in a conference a few weeks ago, a recurring tagline, something that you always came back to, was teamwork makes the dream work.
100%. Yeah. 100%. I should probably write that on a blind.
You're going to write it on top?
Yeah. Yeah, bro. That's like one of my number one values when it comes to putting in work, like for anything. Teamwork makes the dream work. That's just the way to go. People don't give it enough importance to this phrase, man. Yeah. It is the truest thing ever. Like we can only be good at a certain number of things. Like we can't know everything. We can't move mountains alone. Yeah. And those people that think talent alone is enough, or like skills alone is enough, like they got the game wrong. Like it requires more than that. It requires more muscle than that to pull to move mountains, like simply put. And I from day one has been that case. From day one has been a constant pushing of envelope with the team, you know. So
have you also kept in mind, you know, in ways that you've been thinking of, like lifting up the people in your team in your own capacity as well while they're working with you?
Yeah, 100%, bro. It's hand in hand, right? Like if you put in the work, they will be inspired to put in the work. They put in the work, I'm inspired to put in the work. We feed off each other's energy, and that's what synergy basically is. And something that I'm blessed with, that I will forever take pride in, and I'll forever talk about as long as I'm given a mic and I'm given the space to talk about. I will forever talk about the synergy that I've built with my team, the guys that I work with, Tedora, Zeke, Jabba, for Shaurya. These are the guys that I started from scratch with. So over time, you know, as the relationship grew, as the working relationship grew, as the friendship grew, as we grew, like the synergy was built. And that's something that you cannot fake. You cannot just buy. You cannot just get it off the streets with somebody that you just met, because that takes time to build, takes time to foster. And that's something that I have, that I'm blessed with, and I'll forever protect it, right? So I understand the value of what I have. And with that understanding comes perspective. And with that perspective comes the work, the willingness to put in effort so that I can make things easier for my team, the willingness to always be on the ball so that I can help my team do their job in the best way possible. And in no way will I ever hinder or inhibit my guys from doing things in the best way that they can. Yeah. You know, like I'm here to enable them and they're here to enable me, and none of us are here to drag each other down, and that's the last thing we would need. So all of this stems from this understanding that teamwork makes the dream work.
Yeah. And, you know, like, even though it sounds like they've become such a central part of your work as well, I'm sure that in a way that is a big responsibility as well when you're working with people. So what I would like to ask is, like, how do you create space, or at least like save some time for like yourself, your own personal life as well?
Well, to be honest, man, let me share this with you. It may seem like I'm so busy with back-to-back things, you know, like this artist life is something that from the outside it looks pretty chaotic, not in a bad way, but like, you know, just looks
there's a lot of things going on,
and all over the place, a lot of things going on. But the reason I mean, there are a lot of things going on, and usually within the year, everything comes in cycles. There's busy periods sometime around when we release songs, release projects. That's where things get more packed. And there's other times where, things are not as crazy, and there's always little pockets of time that you can find for your own things, like for myself or for my family or for my friends.
Yeah.
That is how it is. So the full-time artist life basically comes in cycles. There's ups and downs. There's busy times and not so busy times, and you have to have a very good understanding of when the waves come.
Mm-hmm.
And when the waves when the tides go a little bit down, you got to catch that time to like properly dedicate it for self and for family and for the personal relationships. They're the ones that truly matter. And that only comes with a very good understanding of what kind of schedule you're on. If you're just, like taking it a day at a time, or like just waking up and thinking of what you got to do, I think it won't be that easy if you live your life like that.
Yeah.
I am always checking my schedule, checking my calendar, hitting up my manager to see what's coming,
mm-hmm.
when do I have free time, and like planning my time out so that I can take care of all the different facets that make up my life.
Have you always been disorganized?
Wow. I don't think I've ever been a messy person, to be honest.
Okay.
I have very low tolerance for mess, or for dirt, for like unkemptness.
Yeah.
I've just have a very low tolerance for that.
Mm-hmm.
But it's not like disgust, it's just more like, all right, this place is a little messy.
Yeah.
I'm gonna clean it up.
Yeah.
And it's not really on an OCD type of level too.
Yeah.
It's more like I like it clean. I like it organized.
Yeah.
And I think it's just the way that I operate, and I've always been this kind, I feel.
Okay.
I would definitely give credit to my dad. My dad is a very organized person. He keeps the things, he puts things back in place. He always like my mom is the complete opposite. I'm very inspired by how my dad moves and how my dad conducts himself in the family and in this world. So I guess I drew some inspiration from dad to like keep things in order, and like because life in general is pretty chaotic, man. Like if you don't put in an effort, shit goes out of hand, and next thing you know, it's too many things to bring back in order, put back in order. But like from making my bed to making sure things are placed at where it should be placed, that's just how I bring order into my life, and it's something that I've always been aligned with.
Right. Yeah. So now that we're going down the list as well, now we've got a 50 Cent song. And everyone knows 50 Cent, but the song that you picked specifically, it's not among like the bigger singles or so. But what specifically about AO Technology is something that stands out to you?
If I'm not wrong, that song was produced by Timbaland.
Mm-hmm.
I'm not sure who the producer is exactly, but I remember hearing Justin Timberlake for the first time with a rapper, and a pop star, the biggest pop star at that time, with the biggest rapper at that time, with a sound that was very unique.
Mm-hmm.
Very unique. I remember the entire album. I bought the album. It was Curtis. It was called Curtis. It was 50 Cent's album that came out at that time.
So was that the one that where he was releasing alongside the same day as like Kanye West graduation?
Yeah.
And we're gonna touch upon Kanye West later, but like that was a momentous time in hip hop history as well.
Momentous. And I didn't even know that all that thing was happening until like way later.
Mm-hmm.
So my brother-in-law gifted me a $50 Amazon gift card, and he just gave me the gift card. I was like, okay, cool. I'm going to buy some CDs with this. So I went on Amazon and bought a bunch of CDs, and Curtis is one of the CDs that I bought.
Yeah.
And I remember watching the music video of AO Technology, and I was very impressed with the sound that it had. It had a very different sound that I wasn't previously exposed to. And that was when I realized that I have a liking towards heavy productions. I have a liking towards raps, but the production, I wasn't able to verbalize these thoughts, right? But I was drawn to the production side of things.
Yeah.
The word is kilat, bro.
Mm-hmm.
So kilat. When you listen to AO Technology and the songs, actually you listen to the entire Curtis album, like 50 Cent's sound is so kilat, bro. Mm-hmm. And that's something that I fell in love with. Fell in love with. And I've always, from that moment in time, I wasn't just looking for the artists, but I started looking into Timbaland and what he has put out.
Yeah.
And I bought, after listening to AO Technology, I hope I'm not getting this wrong. I hope Timbaland is the producer for AO Technology. I remember getting into what Timbaland has produced, and I realized that he also produced Nelly Furtado's album. At that time, I didn't even know who Nelly Furtado was, and I wasn't into Nelly Furtado because I was a rap guy. But I bought that album because I knew it was fully produced by Timbaland.
Yeah,
and that kind of direction that I went only came after listening to a production-heavy song like AO Technology, and I'm pretty sure that was like the tipping point for me. Like, that was when I was exposed to
this Timbaland hole, right here, where you're really exploring the fact, because he has his hands everywhere, even One Republic at the time.
Yeah, dude. Yeah, it was like it was crazy how many different kinds of genres he was touching.
Yeah,
but it was so iconic, right? The sound had a life to it that I will never figure out how to replace. You can't replace that.
Yeah.
It has a special place in my heart. Timbaland is somebody that I fell in love with during my formative years, and he's somebody truly unique, man. Truly unique.
And the next artist they have also sounds very formative. Notorious B.I.G., Biggie, of course.
Yes.
Yeah. And before we recorded as well, you showed me the portrait of Biggie that you have next to you.
Yes.
Yeah.
Yes.
So about Biggie, I mean, of course, like many people have their reasons, but I'm sure Biggie played a part in this very unique process where you're taking in Southern hip hop as well, and then you're taking in 50 Cent. And this was when hip hop was really booming in America, and really finding its own distinct identities based on the regions. But Biggie came from the time when, like the feuds between West and East, and like East Coast hip hop.
Yes.
Like that was so strong as well. So like, what about Biggie that really stands out to you?
So by the time I was like maybe 16, 17, I had thought to myself like, oh shit, yeah, I know everything about rap there is. And then I think when I was 17, somebody told me about Tupac and Biggie, and I was like, oh, who's that? And then I was like, yo, and then I think that person, I don't know who that person was, but that person was like, yo, how could you be a fan of hip hop without knowing these guys?
Right.
And I was like, yo, okay, I just didn't know. And then I went home and I did my research, and I, went pretty in depth when it comes to Biggie and Pac and all the other artists that were around them at the time, and that was around the music space at the time.
Yeah.
And, and that kind of trickled down into learning more about music, period. Like I went into the 90s, big players like, even Michael Jackson and who else, like Prince, who else was making like the dopest music at that time, right?
Yeah.
But then at a later stage, I went pretty deep into Biggie's music. And I was drawn way more to Biggie than I was to Pac. And I was trying to understand what it was over the last couple of years, but now I finally get it.
Yeah.
He had a sauce and a groove to him that nobody else could copy. He had a way that he would flow over the beats that is very unimitable. It's a style that he had that took the world by storm. And it didn't matter that Tupac had the hardest rhymes. Yeah. It didn't matter at the time that Tupac was the best MC, but Biggie could claim a spot next to Tupac, as the king of New York, because he built his sauce from scratch, and he claimed his lane in a way that no one else did. And I was very inspired by that, this big, not so handsome looking dude, but also the sauciest dudes to ever get on the mic.
Right.
And that was super inspiring for me. And he came out of nowhere. You see, everybody, when Biggie was popping at that time, people didn't know where he came from. He just came out of nowhere, became big overnight, no pun intended. And the style that he had was so original. And that was something that I was so drawn to at a time when I was trying to make raps and like write raps. It didn't come at a time. I didn't discover Biggie at a time when I fell in love with rap. I discovered him way after I fell in love with rap. He came at a time where I was trying to make covers of the songs that I love. So when I was 17, turning 18, my dad bought me my first MacBook for my poly course, like for me to study mass comm. And I had a MacBook with GarageBand on it. And I was like, I would pull out all the instrumentals of Eminem or like, whoever that I love and try to imitate exactly how they rapped. And then I will post them on SoundCloud. I've taken them all down in case you're going to search for them. I've taken them all down. It's no longer there. But,
right.
But that is just me trying to express. Is one of those ways where I express my love for hip hop, right? Like just expression. So Biggie was the guy that kind of clicked and convinced me to want to imitate him. I wanted to imitate him so bad because it was so cool to me.
Yeah. I would say that I'm definitely with you in the whole Biggie and Tupac thing because while I feel that Tupac was so instrumental in hip-hop being a cultural force and him being like a larger-than-life personality that no one else in hip-hop was like, Biggie is a master storyteller. And the way that he described it, he knows how to work with production. I feel that Tupac uses production to elevate himself, but Biggie knows how to elevate an entire song through the storytelling, through the way that he raps. And like you said, like he has such amazing control over his flow, such a dominating voice, but something that can also kind of creep under you or so. So when you listen to the music and listening to the characters that he's fleshing out, like it's really, it's to me, like Biggie's music is really the template for amazing hip-hop storytelling. Tupac is the template for hip-hop showmanship. And to me, the storytelling is more important, so that's why like Biggie really stands out.
Yeah, man, 100%. You got it spot on, man. That's how I feel about Biggie too. It's just one of my greatest inspirations behind why I wanted to pursue rap.
Right. And the next guy that we have on the list also, I'm sure is an inspiration to you, Kanye West, where we have 2 songs by Kanye on this list.
Yes.
Yeah.
Yes.
And these are songs from 2 very opposing eras from Kanye West. I mean, the first one that we're going to touch, Can't Tell Me Nothing, that came out during the same time when Curtis was released, so that was around the same time when EO Technology was out. That song was such it's such a big leap for Kanye because he was fusing pop sounds into his music. And at the time in hip-hop, that was really unheard of. He was taking like the kind of bright synthy kind of like pop sounds that were really popular during that time with like Black MPs and stuff. But it was still Kanye. And to me, like Graduation is really like one of his best albums. But about 100%. This song, like, what really stood out to you?
Being that lame kid in school that is constantly being pushed around and like, just constantly not getting enough love from the ladies, I was that kid in school, man. And for me, I really had major disconnects with who I felt like I was on the inside and what the world saw me as, especially in secondary school. And it wasn't the most pleasant time for me in secondary school. I was all constantly trying to fit in and just wasn't pretty, man.
It's a very hard time for a lot of us,
yes. But hip hop was instrumental in making me feel empowered and feel dope, inside. It was something that I constantly had as a strength, like a pillar of strength. It is that one thing that made me feel strong. Hip hop, I relied on hip hop for that strength. And I've never come across a personality in the hip hop space that was so how to say, like when I heard Can't Tell Me Nothing, it was just so bold. Like Kanye was so bold with how he rapped and like what the entire song was about. I mean, then I came to realize everything that he has ever done is bold, right? Like Kanye is probably one of the boldest artists that we have in our generation. So Can't Tell Me Nothing was the first record that I heard from Kanye, which made a very strong impression. That boldness acted as a very big source of strength for me at that time, and it just made me feel dope, man.
Yeah, and I don't think anyone in hip hop at the time was really speaking to people that way, because sometimes like machismo and energy, sometimes like it tends to turn violent or turns aggressive. Kanye was just doing it just to assert himself, through his own unique way. Because from what I understand, the story behind this song and the album was that he was trying to establish himself in the pop world, which he did not have a foot in, because before that he was knee deep in like hip hop. So he toured with U2 at the time, like the biggest band in the world. And for him, that was such a big leap, but he was also performing to audiences that didn't understand his music. And do you find yourself also kind of channeling that, when you're putting yourself out there where you're facing people who have never heard you for the first time as well, and this is a new prospect for hip hop, especially in Singapore, not just in Singapore, in Southeast Asia.
100%.
So, yeah,
100%, man, 100%. I think the game, one of the most important facets to our game plan with Flight School and I has always been to change perspectives, right? So it's not just about making good music that we love, but it's also about changing people's understanding or people's ideas of what they think hip hop music is.
Yeah.
Because here, hip hop music is heavily attached to stereotypes. That is pretty synonymous all across Asia. I would say it's pretty prevalent in Southeast Asia as well. And at a place where people don't really have proper exposure to a genre like hip hop, if you're trying to be one of the key players, not only are you introducing yourself as an artist, but you're also introducing the genre to them. And there comes a certain level of responsibility, because not only do you have to help people break away the stereotypes, but you have to reintroduce to them what it is in its essence. So that was something that we have always kept in mind when putting out records, constantly talking about things and letting people in on what hip hop truly represents, the key concepts of unity, love, bringing people together, celebrating life, celebrating one's stories, one's culture, childhood, one's hometown, all the amazing things that hip hop represents. Like, how do we take away the stereotypes and reintroduce this at the same time, right? So that was kind of what my team and I put ourselves on as on a path, and it's been quite fun, man. Like, it's been very fulfilling to feel heard by people that just like the vibe.
I think that the process that you're describing right now, that's something that really takes a lot of time, and the fact that you're also working with a team with that kind of shared vision, that really helps. But also, it is really emboldened when there are also other artists coming up into the fore also, and also establishing and really establishing their ground. So, like, what is your take on, like, the newer artists in Singapore who are coming up and, like, trying to express themselves through hip hop? Have you been paying attention to that?
It's of course, bro. I'm always keeping my ears and eyes, like, super attuned to who's popping up in the scene, because it's a wonderful thing to see kids get inspired by what can be done. Because a couple of years back, people didn't really see music, or especially hip hop music, as something that they could do full time. Like, it's never been that case. Like, there's people like the Lion City Boy. There's people like Sugar Shay. They're my OGs, people that have been doing this for way longer than any of us have been doing, and those guys have been like the outliers, right? They have been doing it at a time when the what do you call it? The space didn't or wasn't ready for artists like them. They were ahead of their times. But see, when I decided to do music around the time of 2018, there was no label signing hip hop artists in Singapore.
There was no Def Jam.
There was no Def Jam. There was none of that. So for you to pursue hip hop music and do it mainstream was something that was unheard of. So in that sense, it's something that we kind of wanted to create, man, in the scene. Like, just let kids know that it is possible for you to do whatever type of music that you love, even if it is hip hop music. If it is something that you love, you can find your place in the industry. And we were trying to figure out if that was possible. And the process of the last couple of years leading up to now, where we have a label like Def Jam with Universal Music Singapore that is signing new artists, giving kids voices, giving kids hope, that letting them believe in themselves, and showing them that it is possible to pave a way for themselves if this is what they love,
Right.
So that shift in the scene happened like not too long ago, and I kind of witnessed it firsthand with my guys, and super dope, man. So when I see somebody that's coming up, somebody that also believes that you can do hip hop mainstream, you can do hip hop full time, that is something that I always take pride in, because I see myself in them.
All right, awesome. So someone that comes to mind with the kind of singular mentality and someone who reps his hometown and someone who created an ecosystem for himself is Drake. And he also has 2 songs on his list as well. So was Drake someone that you looked up to not just as an artist, but someone who really created his own space in a very new hip-hop scene at the time as well?
So what was the question?
Drake was Drake someone that you kind of looked up to not just as an artist, but someone who really established himself, who created an ecosystem for himself, pretty much just creating the environment for himself. Yeah.
100%. I would say that Drake is my number one GOAT. Like, to me, he is the GOAT. Yeah. Because of what he created, what he achieved with his day ones for the last 10 years is just, it's not even a discussion at this point. It's not even something that is debatable at this point. It's just consistent display of greatness. That's just how I view it. And somebody that reps his hometown and reps his team and celebrates his life and his people, and the different parts of life that he goes through with every album that he puts out is something that I'm heavily inspired by. Right. And the way he tells stories is something that I'm trying to work towards. I still consider myself very early in my career, very early in my artistic development. And when I look at,
shit's just getting started for you, lah.
What was that?
I say shit is just getting started for you, man.
That's how I truly feel, man. Yeah. That's what it is. I'm 3 years in. I have a long way to go, and when I see people that are just great, Drake is one of those great artists that I've been looking up to for a long time, and kind of just studying for a long time. Even right before this interview, I was watching one of Drake's interviews. Like, there's something that I do on a daily, like just trying to understand what goes on in the mind of somebody that works like that, So long story short, like I'm very inspired by Drake. Okay. Really, like that's what I would like to create for myself. A similar blueprint or similar movements. Like, I would like to create a similar movement in my hometown with my guys. Right. Like how he did for Toronto. I want to bring that here in Singapore. Like, I want the whole world to know where Singapore is, where Lion City is, and I want to make it cool,
So, this is a question that's used online a lot and almost became a meme by itself. So I'm just going to reword it for Drake right here, and I'll just ask you, would you rather have state-of-the-art studio equipment, so basically everything that you have is really from top to bottom just improved and like went to like the highest worldwide like standard, or would you rather have 15 minutes of dinner with Drake?
So the studio has nothing to do with Drake.
Oh no, so the studio has nothing to do with Drake. You have to pick one or the other.
Oh, okay.
Yeah.
I would definitely choose 15 minutes with Drake. Yeah, 100%. Yeah. Just like a chat with him, to just ask him some specific questions that interviewers probably won't ask him, or probably they will cut it out. Yeah. Specific questions on how he operates. I think that will be more valuable than what money can buy. 100%.
Sweet. So now we're down to like the last song, and it's another legend in the genre, Snoop Dogg. And
Snoop Dogg, man.
Yeah, and he stands out from a lot of these different rappers just because of like the unique way that he's produced his music. Like, there is no one else like him.
Nobody else. So they can match Snoop Dogg's like their voice, man. Their voice. The voice is the brand, and anything that he puts his smooth voice over, is a rap. It's done.
Yeah, exactly.
And that song that I listed, not many of my peers know that song.
It's called Vato.
Yeah. Vato from the Blue Carpet Treatment. Was also one of the albums that I bought with that $50 Amazon gift card, and that was the album that Snoop Dogg had put out at that time. And Vato was a very funny song because if you listen to it, he uses the hook as somebody else that is talking to him while telling a story from a Spanish dude who he calls Vato, is the hook is what the Vato is telling Snoop Dogg.
Right.
And it is conceptually it's fucking mad. Like it's so mad. And the song is such a banger. And you know, like Snoop Dogg's sauciness on that beat is just inspiring, man. A song that is hot, a song that has a very creative storytelling element to it, and Snoop Dogg's stamp sound on it. So I'll never forget that song. The first time I heard that, I was super taken aback as a kid.
So now we've talked a lot about storytelling today. So it's storytelling hip hop, which is such a central point. And I mean, like the bases that you cover in music, and especially like your later singles, they're a lot more carefree. They really capture a certain energy and attitude or so. But for like future songs as well, like, do you want to see yourself explore different kinds of territory, you know, in like the kinds of stories that you tell in your music?
Well, 100%, bro. 100%. And I think it all comes with the growth, the artistic growth and artistic exploration as I mature as an artist, you know. My personality is that of a carefree, happy-go-lucky kind of guy. And I love to party. I love to be in the clubs. And I want to make songs that slap in the clubs. This is the kind of music that I like. Right. And I have spent a good chunk of my time trying to figure out if I can write conscious storyteller type of songs or different kinds of music. And I realized that it's not a matter of whether can I do it or not. It's what aligns with me in the most honest way.
And like, authentic as well.
I could do a song that is in full English, but is it me though? Is it what I want to do? It's not, you know what I mean? Like, so it really does boil down to what aligns with me the most artistically. So where I've been the last couple of years, where I'm at now is at the space, and I am certain that this path that I'm on, it will come with, you know, digging through the layers, peeling back the layers, trying to understand what are the other things that I would like to showcase to the world. What are the other parts of my life or parts of my human experience I want to talk about, I'll touch on. I think it comes with the growth, and it's not supposed to be rushed or not supposed to be seen as something that you have to like you have to just give people because that's what the understanding of what storytelling is. Let's just say like if my label tells me, oh Roger, you got to write a storytelling song because that's what the rappers in America are doing, that wouldn't make sense, you know what I mean? So it just comes with that.
Just really finding your own lane as well. Like, this is what you should follow, not anyone else's. This is just yours.
Exactly. Exactly. It's mine. And then this sound that we've built, Zeke and I have built, is just, you know, this is the young Raja sound. And I'm just trying to hone that and figure out ways to widen it and branch it out as I grow older and as I mature as an artist. And it's a very intimate process. And that's part of the reason why I put in all this money to make this room dope. So I can incubate here and like have as many ideas, make as many demos, get as inspired as I possibly can.
Now that we have like the full picture of like your mission, what can we expect after this? Like after this single, MAMI?
More music. More music, man. More music. That's all I can say. More music. I can't say anything more than that.
nothing that you can reveal right now.
Nothing. I can't reveal anything besides more music.
Well, I mean, we're all looking forward to it, man. All right, dude. Thank you so much for talking to me today. I had such a great time talking to you. Well, hopefully I'll see you around for sure. Man.
Thank you so much, bro. I really appreciate you making this more of a conversation than interview or Q&A. I really like that. I really appreciate that vibe.
Cheers, man.
You brought in. Thank you.
Thanks so much. Okay, we'll see you around soon, man.
See you around, bro.
Bye.
Take care.